Hey, what is going on the YouTube? This is the gaming guy. So I'm still not overall amazing, but I was planning on recording this video during the week at some point so that I could release it during the weekend, but obviously I wasn't well, so it's been delayed until today. So this should be out on Sunday, obviously. This video is just going to go and sort of compare and contrast between the spring-summer 18 and the fall-winter 18. Now I'm only going to go up to week 10 of spring-summer 18 just because of the fact that we've only had 10 weeks of the fall-winter season so far. Basically just looking through the prices of some of the items, how well I did on the sort of live cop side, and how people sort of liked and disliked it on Supreme community. But yeah, other than that, let's get into this video. I'll try not to make it the longest video in the world, but I might have some issues with that, so yeah, let's get straight into this. Also, thank you so much for 6,000 subscribers, that's absolutely amazing. I massively appreciate it, and yeah, it's just mind-blowing, so thank you for that. I wanted just to look through the weeks and in general just give my sort of opinions, then look over what I was able to cop and not cop. Now obviously different weeks mean different things, different items, more expensive items, some items that will just crush other weeks and the same sort of thing. For week 1 of the fall winter season, I thought it was a pretty decent one, to be honest. You had items like the Madonna tee dropping, you had some of the other tees dropping, you had this diamond plate toolbox, you had this leather anorak which went up by like £100 or £200 but is now flopped below retail, sort of like one of the items from week 1 of the spring-summer season. You had things like the long sleeve tee coming into play which people really liked in the end and they did sell out, and you have a load of other different bits and pieces that didn't sell out and did sell out and are currently under retail, some are over retail, you know, pieces are just all over the place. Personally, I thought that the first week of this season was really decent. Obviously, I picked up a couple of items from it, being the Madonna tee and the leather motion varsity, which were my two big pieces. I probably should have gone long and picked up either one of the waist bag, shoulder bag, or one of the utility bags, because currently they're doing quite well, but that just happens. When you compare the week 1 of the fall winter to the week 1 of the spring summer, I think the week 1 of the fall winter absolutely tops this like first week just by a landslide. Obviously we did have some nice pieces come out. We had some extremely nice bags drop as well. The shoulder bags that came out last season were very nice, and I don't think that the ones that were released this season can top them, because I just think this design is a lot nicer and it's just executed a lot better. However, from that first week there aren't a lot of items that can really trample the sort of first week of the fall winter season. In my view, some of the tees that were released from the spring summer season were a lot better than the fall winter week 1, but some weren't as good. Obviously, I feel like tees like the Molotov tee and this jellyfish tee and the Prodigy tee weren't the greatest or weren't received the greatest, but tees like the chair tee, the cards tee and the FTW tee were definitely some highlights. Obviously other tees like the necklace tee were also some nice ones, but some in general like this chart tee I just don't think was the best sort of decision they could have come to when they were releasing them. Now obviously you can compare also the long sleeve tee. You have this Ripple one that was released. You can compare it to the 1994 one to see which one was sort of better received, and overall I would say that the long sleeve from this season was better received in the fall winter, just because the design is a lot better, and overall by the likes to dislikes people had a lot of a different sort of opinion for this one. There are obviously some pieces that do highlight different seasons and different points in time, but I just think that this spring summer season has nothing on the week 1 of the fall winter season. So I'd say that's 1-0 to the fall winter season. Obviously give me your opinions down below, which seasons you thought were better, which ones you thought were worse, but personally I think that the first week of the fall winter season outdid the first week of the spring summer season. Moving on to the second week of each season. Now I think that the fall winter season was not the strongest for this one. A lot of people had a lot of love for the Water Arc hoodie, but I didn't think it was that great of a piece. I thought that the split logo short sleeve top in the black and white colorway was really nice. I was an okay fan of the Gattos that were dropped, however the colorways just weren't the greatest. My brother obviously picked up the step ladder, I believe he picked it up, but has since sold it on because yeah, it's a Brit. There weren't really many like other crazy pieces that were released during this week. Obviously you had things that people did like. People did in the end like the N3B Parker, which I didn't get because it looked like they just reused the straps from the bags that were released in spring summer. So yeah, but in general I don't think this week was one of the strongest. However, comparing it to the week of the spring summer, it's a hard one to sort of go against, because with this week not only did they release some nice hoodies that people didn't like at the time but are now sort of appreciating, like the diagonal hoodie, but they also released this studded ARC logo leather jacket. With its retail of like £700, I think it is one of the stronger pieces, and it outdoes some of the items from week 1 as well. It's currently, I think I've got it here, going for about £1,000 in some of the sizes. In other sizes it's going for more. In large, someone sold one during September for nearly £1,200. A small went for £1,500 as well in September. So yeah, that is a very big piece. This week also included the Vans collab, which people liked a lot more than the Nike collab. So personally, with all of the hoodies and the jackets and things that were released this week, as well as the Wilson tennis balls, which were extremely cheap and just a fair price, you can compare that against the sort of payphone keychain. But I think that week 2 of the spring summer season was a lot better than week 2 of the fall winter season. Moving on to week 3 of both of the seasons. Now for week 3 we had a Mike Kelly collab, as well as that we had some champion pieces dropping and hoodies, just everything, some Gons bits and pieces, just like a ton of stuff. Now it was sort of well received but not really well received. The trademark hoodie was better received than some of the pieces, and people really wanted the digital scale that dropped. It went in like 10 or 11 seconds as well, so it was a quick sellout time. Overall I really liked this week, and I still have my skateboard deck. I sold obviously my Empire State tee. I should probably kept it and worn it because it was going for retail, so it was a nice piece. But also on top of that we had this work jacket, which also went up in value quite quickly. Sort of like the cowboy piece that came out, I think it was spring summer 17 or fall winter 17, I think it was spring summer 17. We had a piece of the same sort of caliber, and obviously its price rocketed up instantly. And as you can see, for a retail of £288, it's currently going for over £500, which is great to see because it's an item that is appreciated out of the Mike Kelly collab and actually gained some value. Comparing that to the week 3 of the spring summer season, we do have a sort of strong contender, but at the same time not so strong. We have the NBA collab, as well as the SIG water bottle, the pen that dropped, as well as a couple of hoodies again to match, and a couple of other pieces that weren't so strong. Personally, I thought that the NBA collab was okay. I really did like it at the time. However, I probably should have picked up one of the denim warm-up jackets, as that is one of the better pieces that came out of this week, and its value is above retail, whereas some of the other pieces, well, nearly all of the other pieces are retail or below. Some in the Air Force One mids are above retail by a long shot because some specific sizes are a lot harder to get and they don't produce as many. Other items like the SIG water bottles are always really cool to see, and in general people always appreciate them, and they're always a great accessory that they release or re-release at points. For me personally though, I think that the week 3 of the fall winter season is the sort of winner in this case, so that takes it to 2-1 to the fall winter. Just in my personal preference and personal view, I think that the fall winter takes this one over the spring summers week 3. Moving on to week 4, I think this one is just going to fly because week 4 is the Comme des Garçons collab, as well as the anatomy models and a couple of other pieces that came out. Comparing that to week 4 of the spring summer season, we did have the Undercover Public Enemy collab. However, with this collab it did not go down so well on the aftermarket side, and the values of pretty much most of the items went under retail or way below like their retail and just completely flopped. We also had the Doc Martens that dropped as well. In general at the time people weren't really feeling this collab. Some of the pieces were nice, some weren't, but in general it was a flop. However, if you're going to compare that to the Comme des Garçons collab, you've just got no chance on the sort of comparison side, and I believe that this week 4 just instantly just trumps on the week 4 of the spring summer. I'd say that's sort of like 3-1 to the fall winter season, as yeah, you just can't beat that. Obviously, like always, put your opinions down below on what you think so far, whether you think I've got it right on it sort of being 3-1 to the fall winter, or whether you think that the spring summer had a lot better weeks. But obviously we're on to week 5, which did have a couple of nice items. I did pick up the Remember tee from this week. I think that was pretty much all I went for during this week. They did release a lot of nice pieces. They also had Liquid Swords pieces that came out, but it wasn't that strong of a week overall. I think that the first and best tee and the Dragon Work Jacket were very underrated from this week, especially the Work Jacket, as I've seen that in hand and the quality just looks insane. Whereas if we're going to compare that to the week 5 of the spring summer season, I think it takes the lead, purely just because the fact that they had the sideline hoodie that dropped, this champion track jacket collab that happened. You also had another champion piece drop. You had the Mophie Encores getting a re-release from the Fall Winter 17, and then you had a couple of other pieces dropping as well that didn't really help the week, but overall they were okay. I would normally say that a week that releases a load of tees and vast tees and just a couple of accessories and things is always the better one, where this week is obviously the tee week for the fall winter season. These are all the full tees, but personally I think that the week 5 from the spring summer season, I think it takes the lead just because some of the items in my view are just a bit better, and I just like the look of the week overall. When you're scrolling down, you're looking through, there aren't a ton of items, but what there are a lot of nice items. The same could be applied to the week 5 of the fall winter season, but I just think that the spring summer is a bit better. That goes 3-2 now to the fall winter season. Moving on to week 6 of this season, we had the Nike collab. We also had this reversible fleece logo jacket come out with the Virgin Mary blanket, and we also had a couple of other pieces, and the other pieces weren't really the greatest. Overall, I would probably say that maybe the top sort of 5 items were probably the best to come out of this week, whereas if you compare it to week 6 of the spring summer season, obviously this week was the spring tees, or it's when the spring tees were released, which is obviously a big thing. You also had the Nan Golden collab, which wasn't received too well. You had a couple of other pieces that were okay. I liked this reactive camp cap, but I didn't go for it in the end. But yeah, this was the week of the spring tees. Now, when I'm looking at this and comparing it to the week from fall winter, I think that the spring summer week just wins it. Some pieces like this zip-up hooded sweatshirt aren't the greatest, neither is this work jacket. I just think because the spring tees are very nice that were released, and overall they were a different sort of thing for them to release, and it really did change the sort of opinion of the season for people leading up to that point. And yeah, it was a good follow up from the week 5. It didn't let the previous week down. I think it kept to the same sort of rhythm as the prior week. So I think that this week sort of just takes the lead by a little bit over the week 6 for the fall winter. There are some items that I do like from this week, however, I just think in general it's not as strong. Moving on to week 7, I don't think this is going to be a challenge like at all to decide. For this week, we had the Cat in the Hat hoodie, we had the chain license plate, you had the Champion Varsity, you had the big letter sweater, you had the Vans collab, which wasn't the greatest, as well as the warm-up hockey jersey and some S logo pieces as well. Well, just one S logo piece, but in general I think it was quite a decent week. Comparing it to week 7 of the spring summer season, we had the TNF collab as well as some other nice pieces, but the main highlight was the TNF collab. Now, if I was rating it just by the TNF collab, I would say that the North Face collab was not the best. Personally, if you excluded the North Face collab, this week would probably be quite a decent week. At first, everybody was like looking forward to this, hyped for this, wanting to get pieces, but it all just ended up bricking quite quickly, except for the shoulder bag, I believe, which is doing okay. But in general, most of the pieces have brick. There are some nice pieces that came out this week, but in general, it just leaves a sour taste for me because it's just not a good week. When you were looking at it at first, it looked like a really solid week and everything looked decent, but soon after it had just like gone to pot and it was just not good in any way. I did pick up the stamp as well from this week, which I do really like. I probably should have just gone for the shadow stripe long sleeve top instead of one of the Parkers, because I think they look very nice, especially in this front colorway. It looks extremely nice. The pink colorway is also quite nice, but I think the front colorway is just a better color choice. But yeah, this week was going to be a strong week, but it just in the end wasn't the best. If I'm comparing that to the week 7 from the fall winter season, I'm going to be biased and just say that the fall winter season was better because the North Face collab that came out just wasn't too great. I just think this week was a lot sort of chiller. The sellout times were also insane for the Cat in the Hat hoodie and some of the other pieces, and in general I think this week was just a bigger hit than the week 7 for the North Face collab. At first the North Face collab was sort of the bigger thing, but when you look over it now, it just wasn't the greatest, and we all shouldn't have been as hyped as we were for it, because I really wanted the hoodie at the time, but now that I'm looking at it, it wasn't the greatest piece, and in general I was just thinking about going for it because it's the North Face collab sort of thing. I should have just been looking at the pieces as a whole and just gone for something a lot simpler. So yeah, I'd say week 7 goes to fall winter, which brings that to 4-3. Moving on to week 8 now. We have some hard sort of contenders for this week. So obviously we had the New Era big logo headband drop with the Gore-Tex court jacket. We had the Hanes pieces. We had a couple of pieces that weren't the greatest. But in general, we had a really decent week for week 8. Now, when you compare that to the spring-summer, it's very difficult because the Rimowa pieces and the Cactus keychain came out, as well as a couple of other pieces that aren't the greatest, but in general, people really liked this week, and so did I. If I was going to give it an overall though, sort of from the look of things and the sellout times and how items have been doing, I would say that price side, the week 8 for the resale side is a lot better off because the Rimowa suitcases are now like £4,000 and £3,000 or something like that. I think the larger ones £4,000 or just over £4,000, and the smaller ones like 2.5 to 3 or 2 to 3. So yeah, the resale side week 8 probably comes off better. But for the side of a week that I like more, I think that the full winter week is a lot better. I picked up the headband and the Hanes pants. Obviously they released the marker as well, so they released a lot of nice pieces that were also quite cheap. Whereas obviously not everyone would be able to afford the Rimowa pieces. And everything that really released during that week, there's nothing that is cheap. Everything is expensive. The cheapest item is this Ganesh 5 panel, which was £42, and that's it. That's the cheapest item from the week, apart from the Cactus keychain, obviously, but that is the cheapest item except for those two. Whereas with this week, you've got an £8 marker, you know, £20 Hanes, £28 headband, beanie for £34, you know, just items that you can pick up with ease and aren't too expensive in general or in comparison. So for me personally, I would give this week to the full winter season, which would make it 5-3. Moving on to week 9, I personally think that we have this sort of draw or like tie for these 2 weeks because we had the inflatable chair and the North Face leather collab come out. We also had this reversible puffer or puffy jacket come out. We had some tees and some S logo pieces. We had a Playboy piece come out. You know, a lot of pieces that in the end people really enjoyed. However, when you compare it to the week 9 of the spring-summer season, we had the Lacoste collab come out. We also had the cartridge flask. But in general, this week was dominated by the Lacoste collab that even now people are wanting to pick up pieces from. I sold my Lacoste crew neck at Crep City, or my brother sold it at Crep City. I wasn't looking and it was gone literally, and then he handed me the cash, so yeah, that happened with that. But in general, I really liked the week 9 from the spring-summer season. I thought it was quite a decent week. I thought that people did appreciate the pieces, and in general, nearly all of the pieces sold out as well. One piece that I really did like was this wool varsity. I really liked just this colourway. Also, it has the sort of Gucci bit all around it, but this peach pink sort of colourway I really did like, and I was going to go for it. However, in the end, I decided not to, and I went for the crew neck instead. I wanted to get a flask as well, but I was too slow for that at the time. I think both of these weeks, though, to be honest, are quite decent. They are quite hard to put against each other because one is literally just a collab week. Like, that's just dominates it, a full collab week, whereas the other has mixed in pieces. If I was going to look at it from a side of sort of variety and what you could probably get from it, I'd probably say that the week 9 of the full winter was better. But I really do like this Lacoste collab, and I thought it was quite well done with all of the pieces in general. I thought it was just a nice collab, and the bags, you know, the waist bag, shoulder bag, I think they're quite nice, and the sort of variety as well in the pieces, how you have this grid nylon, then you have the velour, then you go on to the crew necks and the sweatshorts and the hoodies and things, and I think that it had a lot of variety, which was nice. So to be honest, I'd probably put this at a tie. I know I would probably be edging towards this week 9 just because of some of the pieces that do stand out, and some pieces were more sort of well received than others, but I would put this at a tie, so it would probably go 6-4 if you could do it like that, or 5.5, 3.5, you know. But that's just how I feel about the 2 weeks. I feel they're quite even, and in general, people probably put week 9 from the full winter season above the spring-summer season, but I think that they're quite even, to be honest. Moving on to the final week, which has just happened, week 10. I know that this is just going to be a landslide because this week for week 10 of the full winter season was just great. You had the comparison of the sort of Killer collab, and that is going against the Hellraiser collab. So obviously you've got 2 films or 2 franchises going against each other, but personally I think that the Killer collab trumps on it because you have all of the same aspects as the Hellraiser collab, but they're just more well executed. So we can go for something like the skateboard deck from the Killer collab and compare it to the Hellraiser one. The Killer one was more well received, and currently the Hellraiser one is going under retail, whereas obviously the Killer one is going above retail and you can make profit on it. From the full winter season, we have the M65 jacket with the Killer which says a John Woo film on it, which someone put out in the comments, which I appreciate them doing that. So this one says a John Woo film, M65 Jacket. This is the best sort of comparison for the pieces because they are quite similar. To compare against that, we have the BDU shirt from the Hellraiser, which I think personally the BDU in this camo colorway is probably one of the better pieces. If you were comparing between the M65 and the BDU shirt, I think this colorway stands out on top, but overall I think that the M65 sort of takes it and wins between the two pieces. You go on to the tees and you have the Hell on Earth tee, which I like the text on the back and how it's designed and how it fades into it. I was going to pick up this black colorway just because of that reason, but I didn't in the end. And you compare that to the Killer Trust tee, which on the back says, in our profession we shouldn't trust anyone. Definitely the Killer tee is better designed personally. This, I like how this like fades in and like the contrast between the black and how it fades in with the piece. But personally, the Killer Trust tee just works on any colorway, whereas when you look at this tee on a different colorway like white, I think that they weren't the best. You also had a ton of other items that came out with the Hellraiser collab, where they sort of went over the top, and I think when they sort of stopped and just like took a step back with the Killer collab, I think that was the best choice for them to do. Literally just keeping it quite simple was probably the best idea. Whereas with the Hellraiser collab, they released 13 items overall, which is just an abundance, like way too many I think to like drop for 1 week in a collab. Sort of like the Lacoste collab, but with the Lacoste one, that's all they basically released that week. Whereas with this one, they tried to put other items in. I do still have my Catcher's Mask, and that is a piece that I'll just hold on to, even if it is flopped or even if it has flopped. I think it's just a nice piece. They did release this embossed logo as well, which was quite nice, and a couple of other pieces that are okay, but overall it's not an amazing week. There's some just out there pieces that are just, yeah, I don't get at all and aren't really the best in the world, to be honest. On top of the Killer side for this, you also had the ID wallet, you had the Sideline Parker, you had a Champion piece, you know, you had the Dragon Range shirt which sold out. You also had some beanies which were quite nice that came out. And in general, the week is a lot better for me personally, so I would call this to be the Full Winter's week for week 10. Now obviously we're only halfway through the season, so it's not really doing too much, but if I was going to put it, I'd either put it as like 7-3 to Full Winter, or like 6-4 to Full Winter, or maybe like 6.5 to 4.5 because of that mixed week. So I'd still say that the Full Winter season has it over the Spring Summer season for halfway. Obviously I will compare at the end of the full season, the final 10 weeks, then give them a sort of overall comparison. But so far I would say this is better. Also, releasing this box logo sticker is just a great idea, you know, that's just an amazing idea to release a box logo sticker with the collab and not go over the top with things. Obviously some people did not like the back sort of quote that was with this piece. They could have made it a lot shorter, people were saying, but you know, they do what they do. They could have put the sort of in our profession on the back of the long sleeve tee, but I think doing it as they did just looks quite nice, and I can't wait for mine to arrive and to wear that. So yeah, for me personally, I feel on the side of live cops and how things are gone, I felt that this season has been a lot smoother for me when I've been checking out, when I've been buying things. It's just been a lot smoother, and people have been saying like everything's just looked a lot smoother when I've been checking out. Obviously I've had some hiccups, I've picked up some bricks for my brother, but you know, that happens. But in general, I think that the Full Winter season just takes it and is just a better season. I think that people like a lot of the items a bit more. Some of the items aren't the greatest. The same could be applied to the Spring Summer season. Some were not the greatest from the first half, from like the first 10 weeks I'm going by. Some were not the greatest, some were really nice, but overall I think that this season's been executed so far a lot better than the Spring Summer season, and the items that have been released so far are just a bit better in my view. But that's just my opinion, obviously. Comment down below your opinion. And yeah, that's going to cover this video. I've been sitting here for an hour and 30 minutes trying to record this, trying to get the perfect sort of footage or recording for it, and obviously I've been messing up a lot of it because of my voice and everything. So yeah, if you enjoyed, like, be much appreciated. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully if they put any news out about a collab for this week, I'll be doing the video on that. And yeah, other than that, it might be an unboxing tomorrow if there is no news. But yeah, also if you have any questions about the seasons, why I think one might be better than the other, why I think the Full Winter so far tops the Spring Summer's first half, you know, just ask them down below. But yeah, I'll see you all next time. Peace.